It's no secret that Stanford Professor Dr. Garry Nolan had alien encounters for weeks as a child. And on a recent podcast episode, he revealed even more in-depth explanations of those encounters. So we're going to take a look at that clip and see what it's all about. If you're new to the channel, y'all, and you like content like this, please hit that subscribe button. I put out a new video every day, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. I do not miss a day. And please hit that like button, betters. That really helps out the videos. So thank y'all so much for the support there. And of course, comment down below. What do you think about this deeper explanations for what Dr. Garry Nolan experienced, right? Because some people have said, well, maybe it was just a dream. But he's like, this was weeks, right? Not just one particular night or event. So honestly, find this quite fascinating. And he doesn't talk about it much, which is why I wanted to share this clip. All right, let's dive in. And before we get to that, for some of you veterans out there, the news I'm about to share with you right now is going to be huge, okay? So let's jump in right here. I received this message, all right? It says, hey, Patrick, I just wanted to let you know I contacted Garry Nolan on X to ask him why he blocked you. Real quick, yes, Vetted was blocked by Dr. Garry Nolan a couple months ago. He private messaged me saying he wasn't sure, but asked me for your handle, which I gave him, and he thanked me for letting him know, and he has now unblocked you on X. I have the screenshots of the conversation if you want me to send them to you. Thanks, buddy. Take care. I'm really looking forward to part 2 tomorrow. Peace. So, thank you to this gentleman for getting us unblocked because it is true. Now, I've had some false positives, meaning people have said, yeah, Garry unblocked you, and then he didn't, right? But this one was real. This really happened. So this gentleman right here, Brian Epstein, he made it happen, y'all. It worked because we are now unblocked by Garry Nolan. And again, you know, we were blocked by Lou Elizondo, Garry Nolan. Those were the two big ones. There may be more. I don't know. The reason I don't know is because I don't really peruse around Twitter too much. Very little. Definitely don't. I very rarely comment on anything or like anything. It's pretty rare if I do, to be honest with you. And I certainly don't get into fights or tag people or do anything. I don't do any of that stuff, right? I don't mess with people. I don't troll people. I don't do any of that stuff. So there's really no reason for anybody to block us. But they did. And regardless, Garry unblocked us. So who cares, right? Moving past that, thank you so much to Brian and for getting that unlocked for me, because you know what that means, y'all. Probably going to be able to get an interview with Dr. Garry Nolan, right? That's the next step, which I'm sure we can make it happen, right? Same thing with Daniel Sheehan. We were able to get him on, and look at the wonderful conversation we had, right? Right. So hoping can do the same thing with Dr. Garry Nolan. So shout out to Brian Epstein for making that happen. Thank you so much. Yeah, honestly, I was excited about that, if I'm being honest. And I think some of you watching who are fans of the show are going to be equally excited. So, but regardless, you clicked on this video for a certain reason, right? Not to see if Vetted got him blocked. That's just icing on the cake, if you will. This is the interview. He was on a show called Behind Greatness, and this gentleman asked him this question. And I love this guy's setup, to be honest with you, back here. This is a sick setup, dude. Little drum kit back here, right? The sound has to be weird, though, for that drum kit, dude. That sound's got to be bouncing all over the place. I'd probably have some pads up or something, some carpets on the wall. I don't know. Anyway, still very cool. Let's just jump into the clip. What do we say? Enough of me, judging this guy's background. Somebody could judge mine, too, right? Hello, Patrick. All right, here we go. Dr. Garry Nolan talking about, again, his alien encounters as a child.
So my question is going to come out a little raw, but before that comes out, so I want to allude to the listener that we've had various people on the podcast as well who have shared those type of experience, what we call anomalies. But I think that I don't think that they're anomalies. But to go back to your experiences, you shared them with Ross Coulthard on the interview with him, and one of those experiences that you, as a kid, you you saw entities in your room for a period of days or weeks. I'm not sure if I remember correctly.
Weeks, a few weeks.
And they were there. They were real for you.
Mhm.
That's what you explained. That experience or that set of experiences, that is still fuel for you.
Oh yeah, it's like I can still see it in my mind. And so look, somebody could claim it was some sort of weird dream.
Sure.
Fine. Well, why did I have that weird dream that other people have had?
Mm-hmm.
And relayed the thing. And it wasn't until literally 20 years later that I came upon the explanation for what it was, even though it had always been in my mind, from the year 10 on, it was never anything that I really ever thought about.
Sure.
And so I didn't have bad dreams, but what I did have, though, is a burning need whenever I moved into a new house to put shades on the windows. I had a sort of a PTSD about it because I did have memories of something looking in the window at me. And so, and actually, wow. Funny enough, Diana relays an event like that in her book when she and I and
Diana Pasolka, that's who he's talking about.
And
Taylor
was, she called him, went out to that place in New Mexico where they put me in a room. When we first got to this little kind of bed and breakfast that had no shades on the window, and I just had a meltdown. I didn't know that she was there, but apparently she was sitting in a little side room when I came out to the front desk and said, I can't be in this room.
Wow.
I need a room with shades on it. Now, it's just a PTSD, and somebody could say, just because Garry had bad dreams when he was a kid. That's it. Fine. Maybe that's it. But it's those kinds of things that, again, it's like, how do I explain that? And how do...
I think that brings up a good point. Pardon me. I don't mean to interrupt here, but I think before I forget, I think it brings up a good point of, when someone has an experience, right, a firsthand experience like that, a close encounter, it doesn't just affect you that day. It's not like, oh, it's over. That's it. Never going to deal with that again. It's something that sticks with you and starts to affect other parts of your life, right? And, even Garry Nolan is saying, okay, someone's saying it's a dream. Okay, whatever. That still doesn't take away from the fact that he needs shades on any room he stays in. It gives him PTSD. Like, I get it, right? Like, it's like it almost, for how it affects you in your life, it almost doesn't matter if it's real or not. In the sense that it affects you the same way. You're not sure of the veracity of the event, but what you are sure of is how it affects you, right? Because sometimes the anticipation of something happening is worse than the thing happening, right? Or the thought of something happening to you is worse than the actual thing happening to you, right? Because we build it up in our minds or tear it down or however you want to look at it, right? And it could become bigger or smaller of a thing, right? Some people are like, oh, that thing's coming up. Not worried about it. And then when the thing happens, they're like, oh my God, this is huge. This is a more big deal than I gave it, right? People we might call procrastinators, right? Then you have the opposite extreme, which is people that overthink something coming up. And then when it happens, they're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. And some people, I guess, who just, it's exactly how they thought and everything works out. I don't know. Right. Perfect people, I guess. But I think most of us fall into one of those two categories. And I think, again, if you feel you've had the experience and then it starts to affect your life, it really doesn't matter what other people think or how they perceive you or whatever. You're still having to deal with it. Right. And I can respect that. I can relate to that. That's why just your average everyday person explaining an event or experience to me, I listen. I can't really do much about it. Like what, I just try to focus on that person's emotions and be sympathetic to that, right? And try to connect with that emotion, but I can't with the actual thing, right? If you send me, right, I won't say who, but somebody recently sent me a picture of a face of an alien, right, that they captured on camera, I guess. I'm not sure the details of it, but, I don't really know how to respond, right? So I just, wow, that looks scary, right? Like, my God. And it is like, oh, Jesus, but I'm not there. It's hard to do anything else past it, right? I don't know what the protocols are, I guess, right? I'm always looking for what's the next, if I guess that's me, maybe my own way of thinking, right? Like, I'm always looking for what's the thing to do. Like, I get information in and it's like, okay, I need somewhere for it to go. Like, okay, well, what's the solution? Okay, well, what are we doing about it? When I hear problems, when I hear, things, I want to put a solution to it, right? And sometimes people just need to be heard. They don't need advice. They don't need solutions. They just need to be heard, right? And I need to get better at that, first of all. But when I hear Dr. Garry Nolan talk about this stuff, right, having to go to the front counter to this bed and breakfast, right, on this trip with Tim Taylor and Diana Pasulka, that's interesting. So they stayed at this bed and breakfast, right? We all know, well, you may not know if you're watching this, but I've been following the Tim Taylor, Garry Nolan, Diana Pasulka story, really Tim Taylor, right? But regardless, it's that however many years later, I don't want to put an age on Dr. Garry Nolan, but he's saying this happened to him at around 10 years old, right? 30, 40 years later, he's still dealing with some of these effects and ramifications of what happened to him over those few weeks as a child. Again, whether or not it's real or not to him, it feels real. It felt right. So I don't know. I find that fascinating. And again, it just like you have this experience. It doesn't just stop at that experience. It's going to be with you your whole life and start to affect you in certain ways. And everyone's going to be different. And I find that fascinating and also disappointing and disturbing. And, it's like you want to reach out and help these people, right? And I hope whoever the front desk counter agent was for Dr. Garry Nolan, they just took care of it. Just got him a new room, right? Don't worry about it. And I get it. You don't want to stay there. Like, I understand that feeling. So, yeah. Anyway, let's continue here.
I turn it into science so that I can have a conversation. It's like, how do I explain that? And how do I turn it into science so that I can have a conversation with my peers about it?
So how do you explain that particular series of episodes there when you were small?
That's actually the only way I explain that is by explaining all the other things first. Because it's just too weird to me. It's just like, I don't have an understanding of why things like that would show up in little boys' bedrooms. Sounds creepy to me.
It is creepy.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, sure. And that, of course, explains PTSD. As a kid, and I don't think I was any different than anybody else, I was always spooked out by being followed up the stairs or followed down my hallway at night. I just run right into bed, and I wouldn't think about things that would creep me out. But if I did think about things, I did imagine things, I would feel like I would create them and they would appear.
Right.
I mean, that's
right. Or you, yeah.
So you said at a conference, the SALT conference, which I thought was curious because it was
So he said, or it would attract him. His Dr. Garry Nolan's audio got cut off there, but that's what he said. Or you attract them, right? So he said, or you create them, and then Garry Nolan says, or you attract them, right? And that's interesting, right? It's like that idea that certain people attract this phenomena versus other people that don't. Now, it could be because they're, subconsciously attracting them, or consciously attracting them, or it's something innate, something about them that attracts them, right? They have no control over it, right? Or a mix somewhere in the middle, or not, right? You do create them. It's not there at all. So, and that becomes the issue with these experiences. The same thing with UFO sightings, right? You say, oh, we know what all this stuff is. It's just balloons and birds and whatever, Okay, we're talking millions of sightings every year or more. I don't even know if it's millions, but whatever. We only know the ones that get reported. And let's be real, the vast majority do not get reported. So whatever that number is that's like, oh, official sightings reported, multiply it times 100 or something or more, because definitely the stigma is out there worldwide that's just not something you talk about. Most people just keep it as a personal story. It's not saying they won't share it, but they don't have anywhere to go officially. And we just talked about this in our Patreon meeting. There is no sort of like worldwide, like, how would that work? What would be the best way to report sightings? What would be the best way to report, these things, right? Tell me down below in the comments if you have an idea. We talked about different things, and what protocols would you want in place? And would you want it international? Would you want it by each country? And I know there's some examples out there, but are those the best way? And to what extent do we use technology to help, right? Like, meaning, do we use an app? Is it a website? Is it more phone call? Is it more that, right? Like, what are we talking about? And what resources would need to be in place to maintain this, right? Labor, infrastructure, protocols, right? What do we need? And who controls it? Who oversees it? Anyway, but the same thing for experiences, right? It's like, what do you do with this information, right? Where does it go? Anyway, let's continue here. Sorry, I keep interrupting. I need to just let this play out.
More an investment-centric type conference in New York. But it felt like the crowd there was very eager to hear about your experiences and your thoughts on this kind of subject. And at one point you said, I'm just going to read it out for a second here. You said, when the host asked you, what is it? What's happening? And you said, I think that it is an advanced form of intelligence, something that we don't understand, that is using some sort of intermediaries that are put here, I think you said here, as an intelligence test. So can you see what's in front of you for what it really is?
Right. And what
elaborate.
It really is, what it really is means what's behind it. That the intermediaries in this hypothesis, in this speculation, are something that sort of a minimal viable product of what it is that you can interact with, and realize that it's not human. Realize that it is evidence of something that is not you. Evidence that it is something of a profound something behind the scenes. But taking on what Jacques Vallée would say, because I remember reading his books before I'd ever met him, Jacques uses the word absurd a lot in his discussion of people's experiences and things that they've seen. And, example.
That's the one thing I was going to say real quick. I forgot and I didn't finish my point, which just that with the number of people that have had experiences worldwide, it's just so hard to dismiss that and be like, yeah, they're just making it up. It's imagination. Again, the same thing with the number of sightings, right? There's just so many to just be like, yeah, everyone's crazy. It's just, and we use numbers like that for every other kind of data set or thought, right? Be like, well, millions of people think that, right? Like, but when it comes to this, it's like, no, they're crazy. Well, wait a second. Like, I don't know. It's just, if it was like one dude, that's it, then okay. But it's not. It's millions of people across generations, centuries, millennia, who knows how long, who have had experiences, right? Vivid ones that are similar from different parts of the globe that they just would have no way to have spoken to each other or concocted the story together, right? Hoaxes. I just find it fascinating. And the same thing happened with cultures, right? You saw the way that certain things were built and systems they had, different cultures across the globe who were in no way connected and had no way to communicate or connect with each other, yet coming up with the same ideas and thoughts and structures and drawings and things that they said they saw. And then they would draw it, right? I'm just saying, it's interesting, right? And you have the same thing today, right? So how do we, it's like, I guess that's the balance, right? How do you keep an open mind yet stay skeptical? Because you have to be both. You got to be a little skeptical and you have to be open-minded. And you shouldn't be afraid to be either, right? It's when you become one more than the other dramatically or extremely, it's in my opinion, that becomes the issue. But to each their own. If you're not hurting anybody, live your life the way you want at the end of the day. That's also true. So whatever. Well, let's continue. My point being, it's too many, the numbers are too high to just be like, all these people are crazy. Right? With sightings and experiences with beings. No matter how ludicrous it sounds. Trust me, I hear it. It sounds ludicrous to me too. It does. Because I've never had one. So I'm just like, what? But what does that mean? Nothing. Right? That's not scientific either to dismiss it just as easily. Right? If we're being fair. Right? If we're like, hey, where's the proof? Yet we're dismiss it just as equally. Right? Because dismissing it and accepting it is the same coin. It's okay to be, well, we don't know. It needs further investigation. Just saying.
It's absurd that a flying saucer lands in a field. Some guy gets out in a silver suit and then proceeds to fix it as if it's, a car. Opens the side panel and, twiddles with it and then gets in and flies off. And so it's absurd. It's absurd that sometimes documents walk up to the door of the farmer and say, "Can I have a glass of water?"
Sure.
And so what his interpretation, and he's just brilliant, is, look, this is a show. This is meant to make you think and realize that it's absurd. And are you capable of realizing that it's not at face, what you're seeing is not at face value. What you're seeing is something which is meant to stimulate you to realize what's really going on or what might be going on behind the scenes. Another way to look at it is, if you're a superintelligence that has never interacted with humanity, and you have thoughts about things that are so far afield from what a human could ever interpret, how many layers of translation do you need to go down?
Right.
To tell somebody what it is that they're seeing. And so you're going to, as best you can, fit the narrative to the cultural capabilities of the observer. So, which is why the observations change over time, right? It's an explanation. It's not actuality, but it is, the only way that I can deal with the disparities in the data. Science has to have a theory. When you have a theory, it has to explain everything. If a single conclusion is out of, sorts with the data or is contradicted,
it obliterates everything. Yeah.
It obliterates the theory. So anyway.
Well, you say anyway, but that's
Real quick. I would just say, anyway, look, I'm going to put a link in the description. Please go check this out. It's a great interview, great conversation. Dr. Garry Nolan is a great speaker, regardless of what you feel he's saying. He is a great thinker. He's a great deliverer, messenger of thought. And that's why certain people are fascinating to listen to. It's how they deliver the thoughts, right? Their delivery mechanism, what you might call the tortilla, the bread, the dough, right? The delivery system. I don't know if anyone's going to get that reference, but I do. But let's talk about a couple things. Again, link in the description. Go check out this full interview. It's phenomenal. This guy did a great job behind the greatness. And Dr. Garry Nolan did as well. All right. So a couple things. One being this sort of bar of intelligence, right? And then the second being, like what they're showing us is a test of some sort, right? I guess it's kind of connected, but one, I guess I would say this level of intelligence, this keeps getting brought up, and I've heard Dr. Garry Nolan say this, and I definitely, if I ever interview him, I am going to ask for more clarification. I just don't like the way it sounds, but it's like, oh, only smart people see this stuff, right? And if you're not smart, you just don't have it to see it. You never will. And I'm like, well, I've never had an experience. What the fuck? Am I dumb as fuck? Pardon my language. Jeez, I'm trying to correct that. But I've heard him explain it, but it does need further clarification, right? And I know people are down there are going to start going in the comments. That's not what he meant. This and that. Yeah, maybe you are dumb because you can't even understand that. Trust me, I know the explanation he's given, but it does need further clarification, okay? They talk about the caudate, right? That's what people in the comments are going to say. That's what Dr. Garry Nolan has brought up. And, being the size of that, how you can interpret your intelligence, okay, blah, blah, blah. I really just don't want to get into that right now because I'm going to explain a lot. But I would just ask him to further clarify that because that comes up a lot and it gets confusing, right? Here's real quick, just a quick skeptical point to that, right? Just I'm spitballing here, but we evolve with the things we need to protect us from threats. Let's just put it simply that way. Okay, I could dive deeper into that, but it wouldn't make sense that, everyone would have access to this reality that is a potential threat to us. We would have evolved with that. I don't think certain people would have access to this new reality and certain don't. It just doesn't make sense to me. Just again, spitballing, first thing that comes to mind. I'm sure there's way more to this conversation, but I don't know. I just thought of it, said it right now. So, right, we would evolve to be able to now what and how you deal with that reality is different, right? Some of us can jump 1,000 feet, not 1,000 feet. What? Some of us can jump 12 feet, 50 feet, whatever the long jump record is or whatever it is, right? Or how high, right? And some of us can't, right? It's just like a mixture. And I get it. Some people are paraplegic. Some people get born with no legs, but they can still see jumping happening. They can still, right? And if you're blind, well, you know about jumping. And if you're deaf, someone's explaining it, you can see it, whatever. I'm getting lost in that. My point is we all kind of have access to the same things for the most part, right? So this idea that only some people would have access to this reality and others would not. I'm just already thinking somebody's going to roast me about jumping 1,000 feet. I said it so 1,000 feet. Wait, what? Anyway, okay. The second thing, how we interpret what we're seeing, right? They almost I've heard this before, right? There's multiple ways to look at it. They're showing you what you need to interpret, so it doesn't break your brain, right? Things you've seen before, so you associate it with that. Okay, that's what I'm going to show you. Right? I'm going to manifest as something relatable to you, right? Which is why sightings are different, but also there's similarities, right? Different types of craft, different NHI, whatever, right? Because of that, or whatever, right? This reality is, they're testing you for intelligence to see what you can handle. Can you see, whatever. I just find that odd. Why would an intelligent species do that? Like, that's just a weird, these are all just weird. Sometimes you hear some of these explanations, you think that's just so much trouble. If you're so advanced, and you would just make it more simple. You would make things more, for yourself. I just don't see the point of doing all this nonsense. Right? It almost sounds like that's what we want. Right? But I don't know. I just, you know what I mean? It just seems like a lot of trouble, some of these theories. Well, they're testing. They're doing this. They're doing, why? They're farming us for whatever. It's like, what the hell? Like, that's not, if we were being farmed, we would know. I mean, it would be slavery. It would suck. They're not going to try to create this fake world for you to live in. Like, that's stupid. If they did it, it would be like the Matrix in the sense it would be simulation or something. But even why that? You don't even need to provide that. Just have babies and little things, right? Like, whatever those things are that they keep the people in the Matrix, right? Like, well, what does it matter? Right? Like, you don't need to provide all these other details for us, If they wanted stuff from us, they just come grab it. They don't give a F. If they just want this, they're just going to do it, They're not trying, well, let's manifest in a different way to hide ourselves. This is skeptical Patrick talking right now, right? Like, well, I manifest myself into something to make them interpret. Fuck that. I'm just going to show them my fucking tentacles and go crazy and wow, what's up? Why would they hide them? Like, what do they care about your feelings, right? Like, they're there. Like, I just don't get any of that. And test your intelligence. What, they're going to, give you a SAT test? I just don't, like, why? I don't get it. Turn in your Scantron at the end of this. What's the point? The Pepsi Coke challenge, right? Like, who cares? I just don't see the why. Doesn't make sense to me. Not the how. Okay. The how we can talk about all day long because we don't know. So yeah, it could be that way. It could be this way, or the what, but it's the whys, the why. And I also have to filter it through my own human mind, the why. I try deeply to think outside of myself and my desire, I really do. That's why I like hearing other perspectives, because the why is usually, you can figure out the rest in a lot of time, a lot of instances. So I don't know. Look, these are the thoughts I have, right? I'm sure you guys do as well. So what makes this topic fun is discussing these types of things. But the why is there multiple whys, right? Because again, is this one monolithic power that's controlling all of this phenomena, or is it multiple species, like countries, right? Are they countries like we have, like representing, right, the different species? Like, because we don't fly around as humans, right? It's like America went to the moon, not humanity went to the moon. Some people say it like that, but you know what I mean? Like, we're broken up into these little groups. So, and it seems like the more advanced we get, the more we do that, the more we group up. So I don't see that going away. And so all of a sudden it's this idea that there's just this one group and then multiple. What's going on? So I think there just isn't one simple solution or answer to this, which I get it. A lot of us want that. I just, should I believe this or not? Is this bullshit or not? It's just not that simple, about the phenomena. Now, what becomes the issue are people's stories, right? When someone comes forward with a story, hey, this happened to me. Because you go, oh, well, I'm like you. I'm a human just like you. And you're saying you had this, thing. What? I don't know. It's interesting because the phenomena itself, I mean, it's just, who knows? Are we ever going to know? I don't know. Anyway, all right, guys, tomorrow, Michael Herrera Part 2 is coming out. Don't forget, check out the trailer that I put out yesterday for a little sneak preview of one of the many bombshells that are going to drop tomorrow in that video. Very excited to put it out. Just trying to tell the whole story. At the end of the day, Michael Herrera's story is up for you to decide, right? Show all of it. Michael tells his story. Michael's team leader, Nathan, tells his story. And the cookie crumbles. It falls where it falls. And you as a viewer decide what you want to believe, right? At the end of the day. But always want to get both sides of the story if I can, right? So, and no one's been able to do that for Michael Herrera until now, right? So, very excited to put that out. And Nathan was awesome. He's a great guy. Really happy to do that interview. And I hope it makes Nathan and Michael Herrera proud, right? I'm not trying to stand on either side here. Just trying to show what happened. And I tried to get Michael Herrera on to do an interview. So we'll see. Maybe it can still happen. Michael, it's an open invitation, man. Definitely would love to have you on. You can look through our history of guests. I'm obviously willing to have anybody on and discuss this. So up to you. And yeah, people were kind of upset at the trailer, the video I put out yesterday. That was kind of hilarious, but I get it. So I won't do that again. Okay. I'm not just going to put out a trailer. I had a thought. I thought, okay, what I should have done, so my apologies, is put out a video like I did today and then show that trailer. Right, and give more context to it and whatever. So next time, that's what I'll do. All right. So I apologize. I just put out the trailer. It was a test. Okay, guys, bear with me. Some of you are patient. Some of you are not. And that's okay. I have to learn to deal with every type of personality that's out there. That is the truth, right? Every type of personality. It's impossible for me to please everyone, but people made some good points. And, I could have done that. So that's what I'll do. Or put out both. Put the trailer out on its own and whatever. I just don't like releasing more than one video in a day. I just don't like doing that. I could, but I feel like it gets lost. Then I'm asking you to watch too much. I'm very careful with that. I don't want to dominate your time because there's so much to take in this topic, right? Interviews, videos, which, by the way, go to the Discord. After party. I'm going right after this video. Again, only after the live premiere of the video. That's it. But join me in the after party Discord. There's a link in the description, a link at the pinned comment, and a link in the live chat. Okay, so I'll be there for, 15, 30 minutes, and I'll talk more about whatever the video is, right? Been having fun with that. I really enjoy that. So I do that every video, but this one I'm going to start doing. I'm only going to do it Monday through Friday from now on. So Monday through Friday, you can find me in the Discord after party channel where I'll chat, and I'm looking into potentially doing once a week, like on Fridays. The Friday one would be more special where I would jump into a space to talk, right? And you can ask me questions and potentially even come up and speak with me. Right. I'm working on that. So bear with me. But for now, Discord chat, me jumping in. Let's go. Everyone, a lot of people come in there and we go nuts, and I love it. I love the craziness of it, to be honest with you. So join us if you haven't already. And then on top of that, people just chat in the Discord, and I see all the different things that get shared, videos and all kinds of stuff, because there's so much to take in. And I love that people have all these different interests and different creators they support and different, right? I love seeing all that and seeing who the different creators are that people support and who they like, who they don't, why they like them. It's fascinating for me, to be honest with you, because I'm a fan as well. I also watch other things and have my own creators and whatever. It's just impossible for me to watch everything, right? Because I also have to create content and live my life. So it's hard for me to watch everything everybody sends me or wants me to watch. But I still want people to send it because I do watch some of it. I just choose very carefully. And look, like today, right? Garry Nolan unblocked us on Twitter, right? Thanks to a vetter, a viewer that watches. I don't know if he wants to be called a vetter, but Brian, you're a vetter in my eyes. Helped us out. Didn't need to, didn't ask him to. Now, granted, be careful messaging on our behalf, but that's not what Brian did. He was just wondering about vetter, right? So, but yeah, hey, dude, we're a community here, right? We're just trying to figure out what's going on, have these discussions, and we're just all on different parts of the journey, and I like hanging out together on it, right? It reminds me of El Camino that I did, Camino de Santiago, the pilgrimage, just on this journey, on this Camino, dude, all different legs of the trip, of the journey, all in different points, all with different strengths and weaknesses. But the most important thing I learned on that pilgrimage is helping each other out, being there for each other, support, no matter what. Right? So we need more of that. Right? So anyway, look forward to potentially getting an interview with Dr. Garry Nolan, right? Sun is shining. We're heading into the summer, y'all. Okay, it's in a good 2024. 2024 has been great to Vetted. It's only going to get better. We have a lot of great stuff planned for May and things that are happening. Y'all don't even know. It's great stuff. So anyway, look forward to tomorrow's video, Michael Herrera, part 2. And right now, join me in the Vetted Discord after party. All right, y'all. That's all I got to say. So we'll see you tomorrow. Michael Herrera, part 2. All right, y'all. Remember, every day